Hopefully I'm sounding okay this time. Apparently I had filters on, and that was the issue. So, the one thing I don't know, which is a little bit annoying, is if I can display the chat on the um if I can display the chat on the stream. I guess I don't really need to, but it'd be nice to have it. Okay, so for today, I don't know if people are going to be here, obviously, since my channel's small. But hopefully, a couple people will join, and my microphone is sounding all right because I got rid of all the filters that I think were causing the clipping. Actually, let me just pull up my own stream on the phone here, and then I can just tell myself. Okay, so it sounds like it's doing all right for now. I guess I'm just gonna start talking. I don't know. I don't know if people will be here or. Okay. Oh, this is really annoying. I tried to set this up through YouTube today and see if I could get the chat on screen, which doesn't look like I did that successfully. Huh. Alright, well. I guess for now I'll just do it this way. So I can at least see everything going on here. And hopefully some people join. We got a Sunday at noon. Hoping people aren't too busy. But I guess I'll just start talking and maybe people will show up. And if not, I'll just play Mass Effect and talk to myself. So the main thing that I wanted to talk about, without sounding like Christopher Walken for some reason, is The Acolyte. That show is off to a rough start. Like, I don't know why they put $200 million minimum into this show. I know the production budget was like 180, which is still a ton. I mean, $180 million for an 8 episode, roughly 4 hours of runtime show is a ton of money. I mean, you're looking at $45 million per hour of content. That's crazy. And then on top of that, the only big name actor you get, I would say, is Carrie Ann Moss, and then she's dead in 5 minutes. So I don't know whose idea that was. I don't know why they did that. I just at some point, like, is this all just money laundering? Because I don't get how you put $200 million into this show for this level of product, and everybody's just like, good to go. Like, this is probably, like, these amounts of money, I feel like people are kind of becoming numb to how much money it actually is. But that is an assload. Like, when you're talking about $200 million, I mean, if you think about like a bunch of horror movies, you could probably make 20 horror movies for that amount of money. And these are like, I know everyone likes to just blame Kathleen Kennedy and whoever over at Lucasfilm. And there's no doubt that they all have their own part in this problem. But these decisions are not just getting rubber stamped by one person. Like these decisions, I'm sure, are going through dozens of hands and meetings and all kinds of stuff. So for them just to crank out this crap, spending that kind of money for the show that we're about to get, which at the end of the day, it's probably going to get worse. But the first 2 episodes were bad, and it almost always gets worse. So you really have to wonder, like, are they all just such a hive mind over there that no one wants to say no? Is it some kind of environment where, no one wants to be the nail that sticks out and get hammered down type deal? What exactly is going on that they just keep making bad decision after bad decision? Because as much as, the people whose names we know definitely have their share of responsibility. I mean, obviously they're the ones getting probably rich off this. Like they're getting their big fat paychecks regardless. You really do have to wonder, like is it just such a shitty work environment that every person there is just like, oh yeah, like this seems like a good idea. This show that, is going to be all original characters, is going to be at a time in the galaxy that hasn't really been explored yet. You have these super thin plot lines. The characters are just non-existent. I don't know. I just don't believe for a second that there's a bunch of people who are smart giving Kathleen Kennedy advice, and then she's like, nah, we're doing this. Because at the end of the day, I mean, no one knows how profitable these shows are, right, on Disney Plus. At least that's how it seems to me. I mean, who the hell knows what they're doing with their bookkeeping? And, what they're saying they're making off these shows and whatever. I have no idea. And it's all hidden. I mean, you can't even really find out like how many people are watching the full episodes because the only source is these corporations. So, if we can't even trust them to know how many people watch the show and like how accurate that information is, because none of it's public, right? They'll just come out and be like, oh, 4.8 million households tuned in to the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte. Well, is that, 4.8 million households sat down, watched both episodes back to back, fucking loved it? Did they put it on for 5 minutes and go, nah, like this ain't for me? We have no idea. And that's why, like, if you want to go check out my Halo ratings videos, when you see all these people like pumping up the Halo show and how well it's doing because it's in the top 10 of the Nielsen ratings, there's a lot more context there, and there's a lot that we don't know. And I try to go into it as best I can, but it's all very opaque. Like, we don't know shit. And they only release stuff if they feel like it's favorable. So even then, it's like, how useful is really the information that we're getting from them? Because as far as I can tell, oh, hey, what's up, Shamrock? It's like it's just you and me here for now. Oh, you fucker. Damn it. But yeah, I was just talking about the Acolyte and just how much of like an opaque business bullshit all these numbers games are, that we really don't know anything. I guess they think that people just forget stuff because they're trying to tout the Acolyte getting 5 million households viewed as a big win. Ahsoka last year got 15 million, which, you know, I don't know if that was for the whole week or the opening day or whatever, but for them just to pretend, this is Mass Effect 3, but for them to just pretend like it's some big win because, you know, a few million people watched the show, what I was saying is that when they say watched, we have no idea what watched even means. Like, watched might mean they turned it on for a minute, turned it off. Maybe they accidentally let the trailer play and that counted. You know, who the hell knows? Because all of their stuff is just completely behind. I mean, it's private, so we don't know anything. The only thing that we get to see, if you're lucky, is Samba TV does a top 10 for households watched, and Nielsen ratings do minutes watched. Which, you know, part of the Nielsen ratings and doing the minutes watched is they only do the top 10. So, you know, there's just a lot of kind of fuckery, I think, with the numbers. And that's what I was saying, is we have no clue how profitable these shows even are. It's really hard for me to imagine that they're making any money on this. Because the idea, right, is that, like, if you keep having shows on your platform, presumably more people will subscribe or tune in or whatever the case is. But you spend $200 million in the Acolyte. I mean, does anyone really believe that they're making that much money back in subscriptions? I cannot imagine that there's much of an audience being like, hey, you know, I didn't have Disney Plus, or I was going to get rid of Disney Plus, but now, because of the Acolyte, I'm going to keep my account. So I don't know. The whole thing to me is just so sketchy. And I just can't believe that Disney and these big-ass companies, I might be peeking a little bit, huh? I just can't believe that Disney and these big-ass companies can just keep sinking this kind of money into these shows. And we can see, like, the quarterly reports. I think every streaming service except for Netflix is just losing money hand over fist. I mean, that's why Paramount is about to get fucking bought out. Or it's at least a part of it, right? I'm sure there's other reasons, but so I just kind of wonder how long Disney's going to go with this model of, you know, like, let's just keep making Star Wars on Disney Plus and hope that we make our money back. And then they announce a Rey movie. At that point, if it even gets made, I think the last I heard was that they're still in whatever phase that's not, you know, actually making the show. The fact that Disney Plus's subscriber count is going down is very telling. Yeah, exactly. And you know what's even more fucked up? And this is kind of why I like people like Ryan Cannell and the Geeks and Gamers, is because they go into all this shit. They'll talk about how, you know, a month before their quarterly earnings shit, Disney Plus will run a special to have Disney Plus for 3 months for $1.99 a month. So it's like free, essentially, $2 a month. And they'll do that kind of thing to boost the numbers so they can tell the shareholders, like, hey, you know, we just got an influx of, you know, 1 million subscribers or whatever the case is. And this Acolyte show, the production budget was $180. I don't know what the marketing budget's been, but I see it on fucking Hulu every time I watch a show. Every single time I watch a show on Hulu, there's at least one ad for the Acolyte. So I think it's pretty safe to assume, I mean, at an absolute minimum, like 30 million, but really probably more like 50 million, 75 million for marketing. I mean, this show's been announced a couple years ago. So, you know, you could be looking at $250 million that they sank into this show by the time it's all said and done. And what are they getting out of it? Like, I don't know. And then they announced the Rey movie, which might not even get made. I don't think it will. But if it does, you know, that's a lot harder to hide when they fail. Like, people who pay attention know that Solo lost money. Like, yeah, it brought in 500 million at the box office or whatever the number was, but because of all the reshoots and shit, it's 300 million that they spend all this, or something crazy. Oh, Nerd Rock was talking about it. Yeah, I try to glance at it just because, out of curiosity, because I'm always like, these shows, I think at least, look cheap. Like Kenobi, I think was another one that was 120 million, 110 million. I just don't know how they can just keep taking loss after loss. And then the animated stuff, I don't know. Like, I know, like, the Bad Batch, for instance, got decent reception, but I have no idea what the budget for an animated show like that is. And I don't remember if I tried to look that up or if it was just too obscure. Let me see if I can Google it real quick while I'm talking. Because I feel like the animated stuff is really... Let's see. Okay, so some people were saying that the Clone Wars were between 1 and 2 million per episode. And they're saying they think it's cheaper now. I would say it's probably more expensive now. When you look at all the shows and movies they had planned for Star Wars about, 5 years ago, and a lot of it's been scrubbed. Yeah, and that's the thing, too. Like, I'm sure they're not... Oh, I'm peeking. I'm sure they're not losing too much money on that kind of thing because... I mean, how could they? They didn't make anything. But... Yeah, it really seems to me like they just don't know what to do at this point. Like, if you announce all these plans and all these things, it's either one, they're just blatantly lying to tell the investors, like, hey, we have stuff in the works, or they're just so inept that they're just throwing shit at the wall, and then whatever people, whatever good feedback they get, they're like, okay, we'll go with that one. Which, to me, is a huge failure at the management level. When you're talking about not only the money that they spend on these shows, like, oh shit, I'm about to get fucked. Damn it. What I meant is that they're definitely losing money since they've cut back on how much content they're putting out. Oh yeah, that's a good point too. That they've cut a bunch of stuff because they're trying to save money. Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I just meant, like, even just all these announcements. To me, it just seems like management is like, oh my God, like, we don't know what to do. Everything we're mentioning gets bad reception. Like, kind of like they're scared to commit to anything. The top 5 movies that lost the most money in theaters last year, 4 of those were Disney. Oh yeah. Yeah, Disney, what did they end up at? Like $1 billion in losses or something crazy by the time it was all said and done in the box office, which is nuts. And that doesn't even account for, like, how much bullshit they're doing with their numbers too. I don't know if you remember this or not, but Thor: Love and Thunder, the budget was like monstrous. So even though it brought like 700 million in at the box office or whatever it was, it essentially broke even. And then they were like, "Oh, but we made 60 million putting it on streaming services." And when you look at it, it's like, well, you gave yourself $60 million to move it from, like, the Marvel branch of Disney to the Disney Plus side. So, like, even then, like, we have no clue how much they're just lying about shit either. So yeah, it just seems like a mess. And I don't even know if it's fixable at this point. Because, I mean, Disney is massive, obviously. And I think if you really wanted to, like, fix Disney... Oh yeah, the title of the Marvel Agatha show keeps changing. No idea if it'll ever even be released. I actually forgot about that. And they've had a few shows like that. Like Ironheart was like that. Echo got delayed forever. And my understanding, I don't know if this is correct, but my understanding is that when they do these things where they spend $100 million on them, they're getting loans like from the bank or whoever, probably fucking BlackRock, but they pay interest on that loan until like they make the money back to pay it off. That's my understanding, at least. I'm not sure if that's like 100% or completely accurate or whatever. But if that's the case, that they're paying interest on these big ass loans too, I don't see how they're not just completely screwed. I mean, I know the theme parks make them like 15 billion a year or some, just astronomical amount. But I would think at some point the shareholders would be like, this is bullshit. Like the stock of Disney is just slowly declining. And that's the other part of this I feel like people don't really talk about very often is, there's not only just the fact that they lost money on any given movie. The other big part of it is how much potential money did they not make? Like if you're looking at, let's say Doctor Strange 2, right? That movie ended up like breaking even because they actually might have lost money. I think it just came out recently that the actual budget was like $400 million or something, $350 million, like something crazy. So if you're a person who's invested in this shit, how can you not look at this and be like, hey, you assholes, if you had spent $150 million, like most big budget movies, we would have made a couple $100 million. Like, just bad management is costing them insane amounts of money. And that's the part that people I feel like don't focus on enough, is because, there's just the actual revenue losses, but then there's the potential lost. And that to me, I think is more, I don't know if it's worse than the actual losses, but it's got to be infuriating if you're someone who's like, hey, we want, we want these movies to make money. Like, yeah, it's nice that Guardians put up $750 million in the box office, but with a $300 million budget, it made nothing. Like, you don't spend $400 million to make $10 million. I mean, that's just a ridiculous way to even like conceptually try to run a business like that. And the other part of it too is, for every whatever, Joker that you have, for every Joker that you have that cost, $50 million to make and makes $1 billion, I mean, you're looking at probably 24 movies that cost $200 million to make, and the box office is $400 million. Like, you can't lose hundreds of millions at a time and only make 5 million here, 10 million here, whatever. Because it's not like, if you had like some smash hits and the budgets were reasonable, you could easily kind of dismiss the failures as just sort of how things are. But when your big budget, tentpole movies are barely eking out a profit, if they even are, which at this point I'm pretty skeptical, honestly. Like, there is no making up for that. You're just fucking losing money. And to me, that is like, it's gotta be devastating. Are there any Marvel movies this year coming out except for Deadpool? I know the strike kind of messed with some stuff, but then you had like Captain America, Black Falcon, whatever. That's gotten delayed again, and they're already like what, 400 million in the hole for that one, and that shit's not even close to being done. Yeah, I mean, was Echo this year? I think Echo was this January too. So that's another one that for all intents and purposes, just pissing away money. And, a lot of people were buying into this Deadpool hype. I'm skeptical. I think the budget for that movie is probably huge. I don't know if we actually know what the budget is yet. And the first two, I think, both made almost identical amounts, like $760 million. And people are going to the movies way less now than when those other two came out. Because the other two came out, like 2016 and 2019 or something? It's been a while. Let me see real quick. Yeah, Deadpool was 2016 and Deadpool 2 was 2018. So yeah, that was back when they were almost printing money with movies. And it seems like they're really putting all their eggs in this basket, and I just don't know if I buy it. Now, I'll be honest, I'm also not a huge Deadpool fan. Like the first one, I liked all right, but I also am not a huge fan of the Ryan Reynolds shtick. Like I like him when he's actually either one, not playing himself, or if he's like not the main character. I find him a little bit grating, which I know is probably not very popular take. I mean, he seems like a cool guy in real life, but I just don't really enjoy his whole persona where he just plays himself in a lot of shit. It's just not, I'm just not a huge fan of it. Like almost in the same way that I liked Cleveland and Family Guy, but then in the Cleveland show, I was like, it's just too much. The fact that they've already shown in the trailer that the time travel police from the Loki show are in it has disappointed some people. And that's something that I wonder too, because I haven't really heard much about this. But how many people are actually keeping up with all these shows? Because like pretty much for me, once they started doing like connecting the Disney Plus shows to the bigger universe, I was just like, I'm good. Like I have no interest in watching 8 episodes of WandaVision as homework before I go see Doctor Strange 2. I haven't seen any of the Deadpool movies. Also not a Ryan Reynolds fan. Well, I thought girls liked him because he was good looking. But maybe I got that wrong. Or maybe that's a different era of women. Or a different age group, I guess, not era. Yeah, I mean, the first one is a pretty solid movie. But I don't know. Like, they're just so over the top. And the humor is just a lot. That for like 2 hours, not you, that for like 2 hours, it just becomes kind of grating for me. And just not really my thing. I mean, I like in the trailers, I do think that the dynamic between him and Wolverine looks good. But, I don't know how far that can carry you. And my prediction for this movie, if I had to give one, is that it will be fine to watch one time. And there'll be a bunch of cameos that people will enjoy and all that kind of thing. And it's going to be like how a lot of the Marvel movies are, where you watch it once and then just kind of memory hole it, never watch it again. Like, I kind of wouldn't be surprised at all if this ends up being one of those where you see the box office drop from week 1 to 2 is just huge. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe this will be the $1 billion R-rated movie that everyone's thinking it will be. But I think I'm also less optimistic about theaters than most people right now. Hey, Joseph, what's up? We're talking about Deadpool right now and kind of just the state of the MCU. And I was just saying that I think Deadpool is going to be... Like, I've seen a lot of people thinking it could be like a $1 billion R-rated movie. I don't think so. And I don't think movies are going to recover anytime soon unless, well, first of all, they had to make better movies. I mean, Dune 2, did fine because it was a spectacle in theater. But Shamrock says that she rewatched the first Iron Man movie not long ago, and the Marvel movies have really gone downhill. Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was going to say. First of all, the movies need to get better. Like, you can't ask people to spend $20, $30, $40 to go to a movie when 9 times out of 10, the last 3-4 years, they've just been bad. Best thing they can do is bring classic movies back to the big screen. They definitely are trying that some, but again, I mean, I know like the hardcore people will go see, Phantom Menace or whatever, or Lord of the Rings in theater. I actually went and saw the Two Towers maybe 4 years ago. I think it was during all the pandemic shit. They put Two Towers in the theater, and I went and saw it because I love the Two Towers, and that one is a spectacle to see in theater. But I think the other thing they need to do besides obviously better movies is probably get these streaming sites to have some kind of deal where they won't put theater movies on streaming services for like 6 months. I'm going to age myself a little bit here, but I remember as a kid, if you wanted to see a movie and you didn't go see it in theater, well, first of all, the movie would be in theater for like 3 months. But also, the other part of that is, it took like 6 months to get to VHS, sometimes almost a year, depending on the movie. So, like, my dad, for example, Filthy Senior, he hasn't been to a movie theater in at least 5 years. And every time I ask him, he's like, it'll be on HBO Max in a month. I'll just wait. Like, he doesn't even care. So I think that attitude, along with the cost and just everything else, the theaters are in trouble. And then you have this weird shit with the budgets that I don't really understand. Like, Oppenheimer obviously looked great, and the budget for that one was like $100 million. Planet of the Apes, Dune, those movies all look good. But their budgets were pushing a little bit higher too, like 150, 180 million, that neighborhood. Like, until they rein these budgets into about 100 million, maybe like 125, and improve the quality, people just aren't going to go see it. And then I don't know if the theaters can even afford to drop prices, or if that's just something that's out of their hands. Because with the economy being the way it is, luxury items, which going to a movie theater is, will always be one of the first things people get rid of. Joseph says, I agree with you, one and done. Unfortunately, I can't agree, but I think it will be very close to $1 billion because there's a huge fan base for Wolverine overseas. Yeah, that's a good point. I just don't know. I don't know, because the last two, neither one hit 800 million, and that was during peak, when people were turning out to the cinemas every weekend. That's what we were just talking about, I think right before you got here. I'm not sure how long you were in chat. But 2016 and 2018 are when the first two came out. So, that was a different era for movies. And Shamrock says, you've also got these actors and actresses with just insane salaries to be in one movie. Yeah, that part, that's always a tough call for me. I do agree with you, though, that I think we are going to start to see these actors and actresses get less money, because I think the era of movie stars is almost dead. Like, there are certain actors, if I see them in a movie, I'll probably go. Like, I like Tom Hardy. I like Leo. I used to like Jennifer Lawrence, like around Silver Linings Playbook time. I like Tom Cruise, but like this newer generation of actors and actresses, like I'm not shelling out, you know, 25, $30 to go see a movie because Timothy Chalamet's in it or Florence Pugh or whoever. That just ain't happening. So I think what we're going to see, my guess, is that these actors and actresses start to lose some leverage in that capacity. I don't know if it'll be enough to make up for that difference though. Because say you wanted, I don't know, whatever, Will Smith to be, in your movie $20 million or The Rock or whatever. After a couple failures, they're not going to keep getting paid like that. And also, how much do you lose really? I'll come back to the Acolyte in a minute. How much do you lose really if you don't have The Rock in your movie? Does it even affect the box office significantly? When you can get an actor, maybe a smaller name or no name, for a couple $1,000,000, save yourself $15 million in the front end. And if the movie is good, it'll probably still make about the same. So I don't know. But these studios are also really slow to react to everything. Okay, so Joseph said that the title says that the Acolyte's trash. Specifically, why? Well, the biggest issue is the characters right now. They are completely flat. The only one that's kind of interesting is Soul, which is the Squid Game guy. And then there's just way too many stupid decisions. This is a show that I think, even that first fight scene with Trinity, for example, that people are praising quite a bit. Like, even that first 5 minutes, they made her character look like an asshole. And she hardly talked. Like, all he did was fight and she died. And her character seems like a shitty person just because of how the fight went. Where she's letting this girl destroy this bar. She's kind of toying with her instead of just ending the fight. She doesn't use the force to put a stop to her. Like, she lets the girl take a hostage and doesn't pull her lightsaber out. The idea that she would die with a dagger to the chest when the last, I don't know, Kenobi, Ahsoka, obviously the shit with Darth Maul, they got lightsabers through their fucking chest and all lived. So now you've got world building issues like that. Shamrock said she died stupidly as well. And yeah, that's another thing, is what they were going for is like, oh, she was distracted so she wasn't guarding herself. But that's absurd. And I don't know what the official lore is now because they've done so much retconning and they've kind of played it fast and loose with the Force all the time. But like in the books, at least, the way, like the Darth Bane books, for example, which are now not canon, the way that it's described is that when they're having a lightsaber duel, they always have a force field up because, they don't want to get, but they're always protected because they don't want to get essentially caught off guard by a force maneuver, So even that kind of stuff I think is super basic. So the idea that a dagger would just penetrate her defenses, all of that was super lame. That's the first 5 minutes. And even if you go to the next scene from there, where they had this twin thing going, like, I guess that's fine. I mean, the idea of them having the same hair is really ridiculous. But the other thing too is, they treat it like we're in the Wild West. So, like, they don't have any camera footage. We have no idea how far away the main chick is. And they fly right to her. The guy points at her and says she's the one that did it. And they just arrest her. Like, they don't have any digital logs. They don't have footage of her on the fucking ship. Like, there's just a lot of stuff like that just feels like lazy to me because they want something to happen. And instead of making it work within the world, they just kind of make it happen and then they want the audience to kind of fill in the gaps for them or just overlook what I would call stupidity. And that's all just like the first 10 minutes. Let's see. Soul's character is the best of all of them, but unfortunately his character is not written or acted well because in some scenes it doesn't sound or look good. You can see his acting is forced. See, it's funny because I actually think his acting is fine, and I liked him a lot in Squid Game, but apparently he literally just learned English to be in this show, and I just don't know why you'd make that decision. You know, I mean, good for him. It's impressive that he learned English quickly enough to be in this show, but it's very jarring when they're all supposed to be speaking basic or common or whatever. I think it's basic in Star Wars. What's common? I'm getting my franchises mixed up. But, you know, he's speaking in basic and he's hard to understand. Now, I watch everything with subtitles, so not a huge deal to me, but it does kind of pull you out of the show. Yeah, Shamrock says that same thing I just said, that the actor playing Soul learned English just for this role. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, I couldn't learn Korean that fast. Like, I couldn't do the reverse. But, you know, and at the end of the day, my guess is what happened, and obviously I don't know, is that Squid Game was trendy at the time that they were, like, conceptualizing this show. And they're like, oh, let's get this guy now while he's trendy. Oh, common is Lord of the Rings. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, basic is Star Wars. That's what I thought. And so my guess is that, you know, Squid Game was trendy, right? They were like, oh, let's get him. You know, Squid Game's on top of the world right now. He'll be a great addition to the show. But then the show didn't come out for 4 years. I think Squid Game was 2020. I think. So that trend is gone. And as much as I like the actor, I think he is a good actor, obviously just from Squid Game. You know, does anyone know his name? Or does everyone just say, oh, it's the guy from Squid Game? And this kind of plays back into what Shamrock and I were just talking about with the actors just don't have the pool anymore that they used to. Like everyone's like, oh, it's Captain America or it's Captain Falcon or it's Squid Game guy. You're not like, oh, it's Chris Evans or it's Anthony Mack or I don't even know the Squid guy's actual name. And that's kind of like, I just don't really understand that decision making. Because and this is, you know, this like trying to grab onto trends thing. I don't, maybe this worked for Hollywood like 20 years ago before the internet. Let's say 30 years ago before the internet. But now, you know, a trend is gone in a couple days, sometimes, maybe a month. Like Squid Game was on top of the fucking world, I would say for about a month, and then just vanished. And that's just kind of how shit goes. Like even stuff like Stranger Things, you know, when you have all these shows that come out on the fucking binge model, if they catch on, they're really popular for a couple weeks, and then that's it. They're just gone. Because, you know, this is a debate that fucker. This is a debate that the Geeks and Gamers guys have all the time. And it's one I absolutely do not agree with Jeremy on. Because he says that good shows will get attention no matter what. And he's right. But when Nerdrotic says, you know, we're not going to have a cultural phenomenon with these binge shows, I 100% agree. Because a huge part of the cultural phenomenon thing is speculation. I don't know how old you guys are, but like the show Lost when it was out, I never watched it. But I do remember people just every week being like, oh my God, I can't believe this thing happened on the island. What do you think it's leading to? And that's a huge part of, you know, the draw. Same thing for Game of Thrones. You know, Game of Thrones, obviously, you have a show where no one's safe. And, you know, it's fun to speculate. It's fun to talk about it. With the binge model, if I've watched a show and you haven't, other than saying, oh, it's pretty good, you should check it out. Like, that's kind of the end of the conversation. Otherwise, I have to ruin the show for you. Let's see. So Joseph says in this show they're building up to the reveal of the master. Hey, I'm going to watch the whole season. I'll watch the whole season. And then he also says, I never watched Lost either. It didn't grasp my interest. Yeah, it just seemed too crazy to me. Oh, and Shamrock says the same thing, that she watched the season 1 and just lost interest. But for the master of this show, I've seen a lot of people predicting that it's going to be oh shit, I'm about to die, motherfucker. I've seen a lot of people predicting it's going to be their mom. I think that's a pretty good guess because I don't really know who else it could be that would matter. And I was rewatching. Actually, I was watching EFAP react to episode 1, and I didn't notice it the first time that I watched, but the person holding the lightsaber with the voice distortion, the master, whatever, looked a lot smaller to me than the first time that I watched it, because I was just kind of like looking at what I want to say, him or her, I don't know, whatever. I was kind of just looking at him, and I think the reason they put him so far away is to fuck with the perspective. Because if you go back and look at that scene, I think it actually looks like it could be a woman in there. And this is all just rumors. We'll find out in a couple of days. But apparently, the next episode is going to have like all women being like lesbian moms to the daughters, which are the embodiment of the Force or something like wild. And if that's the case, I think, fuck, I hate this part of the level. Presumably, we're going to see the Jedi come in, wipe out the twins and their moms and whatever, since we don't know anything yet. And I guess from that point, we're supposed to assume that the moms are dead. I'm guessing that one of them lives, and that will be the route we go. Otherwise, I don't know though, because Star Wars has done some weird shit. Like, I don't really hear anyone talk about this anymore. But in the Ahsoka show, everyone was speculating about. Oh shit, my batteries died. In the Ahsoka show, everyone was speculating about the robot guy. I'm blanking on his name right now. I want to say not Revan. What was that guy's fucking name? Anyway, he didn't talk, and then he died. And when he died, he was just a cloud of smoke. So, there is a chance that they do something like that where they're like, oh, you thought it was the mom or somebody important, but it's just Billy Bob, like the evil Sith Jedi, whatever the fuck. So, I don't know, because my initial prediction in my comments was that it would be a man that we would find out more about later. But then when I hear people say they think it's gonna be the mom, I'm like, well, that would make more sense for a drama. Yeah, I thought that was funny too. Shamrock says that the master tells the bad twin that she can't kill Jedi with steel, but she killed Trinity with a dagger. Yeah, that whole scene, man. It's definitely one of those things where, like, the more that you think about it, the more you're like, no, not good. Like, 5 more minutes of thought going into this would have been nice. Let me grab new batteries. I have some rechargeables right next to me. So Joseph says, who's the mom, though? What character? The voice sounded really bad. Sounded muffled. Definitely not a man's voice. I think I know who it is. So, yeah, yeah, it's all speculation right now because we're gonna get allegedly, according to all the people who've seen the early shit, this next episode is gonna be the backstory one, and we're gonna meet we're gonna see what exactly happened. And this is also supposed to be the one where it sounds like they retcon what the Force is. I don't know if that's exaggerated. I don't know. I mean, this is all just rumors and, you know. And, I'm stuttering like a fucking asshole. A really big mistake to me, and this is something that Mueller pointed out, and I think it's a good point, is that so many directors and stuff seem to view action scenes as like just a sort of obligatory part of making the show exciting and not using them as opportunities to explore character. And I agree with him. I think that's a huge problem. Like the way that your characters fight can reveal so much about who they are. Like even if I'll give an example of this. So I did like a first draft of a Force Awakens fan fiction. And a part of what I did, because the way that I treated it was like if Disney hired me, but I had to use all of their characters. So a part of what I did is, Kylo is slowly turning to the dark side in Force Awakens because he's starting out essentially under Luke, but jealous, insecure, if you want to say that, because he's growing up with Leia as his mom, Han as his dad, Luke as his uncle. Tough environment, right? So he's slowly becoming more like ruthless as the story goes on. And Rey is she's aware of her lineage to Palpatine, but she's actively trying to avoid it. So there's one part where I have him fight pirates. And it's been a while since I read it. I can't remember the exact context. But anyway, when they're fighting, I have Kylo Ren just go through fucking slaughtering people, while Rey is just disarming them, cutting off limbs. Not anything crazy, just super simple shit like that can be used as character work. And I don't understand why so many movies don't do it. Like you can have different people fight different ways. If you've ever seen the show, there's a Korean show called My Name. I did a video about it because I think it's a really good example of a strong female protagonist, like in an action show. And one of the first episodes, she fights this huge bouncer dude because she's a cop, and she's using a baton, and he's just like brute force throwing her and shit, right? Like even just simple stuff like that. Like you've got this small woman who has to use weapons, who has to use technique. She has to go for groin shots and that sort of thing. And you get this big burly dude who just tosses her around the room. Like to me, that should be like the baseline for all kinds of shit. Like a more extreme example, right, would be if you wanted to have, let's say Batman and the Punisher. I know they're different universes, but like if they teamed up, or kind of like Daredevil, actually. Daredevil and the Punisher did actually team up. And this is the thing where Daredevil's like, hey, I don't fucking want you killing people. Like, you're not judge and jury. And the Punisher's like, yeah, the system's fucked, so I'm not going to do it your way. And you get like a really good dynamic between the two just based on how they fight and because they have a different set of like moral guiding principles or whatever you want to say. And to me, you see this a little bit in Star Wars, right? Like for instance, in Empire, you do get to see Darth Vader using the Force while Luke is kind of just on the defensive the whole time and fleeing because of the power difference. And that kind of stuff should be everywhere. This is like kind of one of the more broad issues I think Star Wars has with the Force is when people do and don't use it is just kind of like whatever's convenient for the story at the time. They don't really take advantage of it. I don't know. That's just how it feels to me. But yeah, so like to me, like that opening scene, I'm not gonna say this would completely have fixed it, but if you had Trinity, try to use the Force on her, but she resists enough to where it doesn't work. So Trinity's like, okay, I'll have to deal with it by hand because I don't want to pull my lightsaber out unless I need to. And then as soon as the lady, what's her name, Eva, May, Osha's the other one. So I've been calling them Rick James and Cocaine Rick James. So I've fucking forgot their actual names. You have Trinity use her fist to not pull the lightsaber out because she doesn't want to kill her. But then as soon as she takes the hostage, like boom, she takes the lightsaber out. And now she's like done fucking around. Like I think a lot of that simple stuff can make it better, or at least improve it. And then obviously you still have to find a way, like a clever way, for May to win the fight. But the characters need to act how they would. Like a Jedi, and this is something I think I said in my video too. Like it's one thing for the Jedi to not want to use weapons. It's another thing to like let hostages get taken, let themselves get killed. That just makes them fucking stupid. So this show, I think, has a lot of these issues. I'm going to go ahead and say right now, I suspect that once we get the backstory for this show and these characters, that we have a show that's completely broken on a fundamental level. And when I say broken on a fundamental level, I mean like the most basic, like just, if you were to outline the plot in just a few sentences, I think it's going to be broken on just that vague of a level. Like I don't think information is going to make this story better. And then to give you an idea of what I mean, okay. To give you an idea of what I mean, this is a problem that the Halo show had, right? So the Halo show, a big part of the season 2 plot was Parangoski pretending to go undercover because she was trying to get information from Chief in this really kind of weird roundabout way. But then later on, you find out that she's like the most powerful person in Oni. And it's like, okay, well, if she's the most powerful person, why not arrest him? Why not execute him? Why not just order him to give you the information? Like, she has all these options at her disposal, right? And the one that she goes with is, I'm going to lie and try to trick him and go undercover when it makes no sense. So to me, like that, like assuming that they actually had like a writer's room and meetings, as soon as someone suggested that, everyone else there should have been like, no, this makes no sense. Like, if we're going to do that, we need a way for it to make sense. Like, before we go any further. Because I don't know. I mean, I like writing as a hobby. I talked a little bit about it last stream. And a lot of the shows that we watch, or, that I watch and talk about, I try to think of like, if I was in the writer's room, how would I have approached this? Or, if they had said, hey, give us the first draft for this show, like what would my broad outline for it have been? And this is, and I just think it's interesting to do it that way to see what you can come up with. But also there's just the element of, these people are getting paid to do this for a living. Why are these plot lines allowed to happen that don't make any sense? And a big one that we see is, I think, they try to justify incredibly immoral things by just making the character the protagonist. So, like, I didn't watch WandaVision. I just kind of read the plot summary. But even just knowing, like, the basics of the show, the fact that it ended with kind of the show trying to justify that Wanda didn't do anything wrong. Like, to me, that is just a massive failing on the most basic level of storytelling. And then even in Doctor Strange 2, he's like, oh yeah, I don't care about that town that you took over and like enslaved. And it's like, okay, well now you've made Wanda crazy. You tried to justify it. And you've made Doctor Strange kind of understanding of this. And like, if you just step back and think about it for a second, right? Like, Wanda was upset because Vision died. You know, obviously tragic, whatever. Obviously tragic, fine. People lose their spouses in real life all the time. No one would forgive them if they went on a fucking rampage or started enslaving people. Like, no one would try to justify it. No one would feel bad for them. They'd call you a lunatic. So I suspect that in the Acolyte, we're going to get something similar where there's just some kind of massive moral issue and the show thinks that that's justification for May's revenge story. And I think it's not going to be sufficient. Or they're going to have to make the Jedi, I would say, bordering on cartoonishly evil to enable this plot to happen. I mean, they've already kind of laid the groundwork, right? Like, we're supposed to understand that May is trying to kill 4 specific Jedi. We're supposed to get that completely lost my fucking train of thought there. Like, the show is putting us in a position where it's gonna want us to sympathize with May. And I just don't see a way that they can do that is satisfactory to both make the Jedi not crazy evil or stupid and to make May seem justified. I just don't know I don't know if they're capable of that. It could be well done. Maybe I'll be wrong. But I suspect that we're going to get a show that's just broken. Because at least the way that it feels to me in recent memory is every episode of a show that comes out feels like the show just gets progressively worse. So I'm not optimistic. And I'm not optimistic, because I want to be spiteful. I'm just not optimistic because this is what they've demonstrated. Like the Kenobi show, Ahsoka, every single one of these shows where you try to give them credit and you're like, oh, like that could be a neat thing that they just set up, or that could be a cool thing that, gets paid off later on, or whatever the case is. And 9 times out of 10, it feels like they just go in such a completely different direction with it that makes no sense. Or that they're trying to be like surprising. That it's just like, okay, well, you just wasted a shitload of my time. And all of the fan theories end up being more interesting than what we actually get on screen. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, it'd be great if it was good. I'd love for Star Wars to be, fun to watch again. But after the first couple of seasons of Mando, I was like, nah, this ain't for me. After Kenobi, I was like really done. And then I was like, I liked Rebels, so why don't I give Ahsoka a chance? And then Ahsoka was a slog to get through and just an absolute nightmare. And it's so disheartening too. If you've read any of the Thrawn books or anything from the Star Wars EU, even the ones that are canon, which people say aren't as good as the original Heir to the Empire trilogy. I like the new ones too, though. The one's just called Thrawn. One's called Treason. Oh, what's the title of the third one? Damn it, I can't remember the title of the third one right now. But all three of them are pretty good. And then you get to the TV show, right? And it's like, oh, they're bringing in Thrawn. I like Thrawn. And he's just a fucking idiot. In many movies and TV shows, it seems the deleted scenes would have made it that much better. I don't know. I feel like when it comes to good movies, like Lord of the Rings, right? The extended edition, which adds like an hour to each movie, they're awesome. But then you have to wonder. I'm trying to think of like what's a movie that's just dog shit that came out recently? Like Furiosa. I'm sure that movie has deleted scenes. That movie was boring as shit. And I cannot imagine more scenes would have made the movie better. But oh yeah, one of the other things I had in the title was Bad Boys for Life. That one, pretty much, if you like the first three Bad Boys movies, you'll like four. You'll like four. It's the same as the first three. Just kind of Will Smith and Martin Lawrence yelling at each other and really stupid action and kind of nonsense. You definitely have to ignore all logic with those movies if you want to enjoy them at all. The good thing about them, I will say, is that they're good for some chuckles here and there. And they're not like offensively bad. They're just kind of generic 90s action, over the top. You know, like it's fine if you're hungover one day, it pops up on TNT or FX or AMC, and you just leave it on in the background. Like they're not some fucking masterpiece. I'm curious to see how it does at the box office though, because I think the budget for this one was decently hefty. What's it called? Bad Boys for Life? Oh, shit. Let's see. Bad Boys. Oh, Ride or Die. I want to see the budget real quick. Okay, so the budget was 100 million. No, wait. Huh. So it's on pace for 100 million this weekend. And its budget was 100 million. I'm surprised. But, you know, the good thing for it in that case is unless there's a massive drop off, it'll probably end up at least making its money back. It's so dishonest how these shill media outlets report budget stuff too. Like if you Google Bad Boys 4 budget, the first couple of things that you'll get are articles about how it's already exceeded its budget at the box office. And like, yes, that is true in a very literal sense, right? If it made 100 million, the budget was 100 million. But it's also just super dishonest because what they're doing when they say, "Oh, Bad Boys 4 exceeded its budget its opening weekend," is they're trying to like frame it in a way that most people who don't understand how the box office works will be like, "Oh, it already made its money back." When in reality, it's made 40 to 50% of its money back. The media is just awful. I can't fucking stand them. And they all do this shit too. Not just box office stuff where they frame things in a way that are technically true, but they're being deceptive. Unless you're really paying attention. Oh, Shamrock, I was just bitching about Bad Boys 4. Pretty much just saying if you like the first three, you'll still like it. It's kind of the same shit, except they're a little bit older. And then I was saying that the budget was $100 million, and it made $100 million this weekend. So all the shill media is pretending like it's already profitable. Same shit as always. And I was just bitching about the media in general because they'll tell the truth just to be so dishonest. Oh, you haven't seen any of them? They're on Hulu if you get bored. I wouldn't say they're good recommends, but if you're okay with like generic, over-the-top 90s style action, they fit the bill perfectly. Like, they're not great. They're not inoffensively bad. You know, they just kind of do their thing and are unapologetic and over the top and don't give a shit. I think the last thing I had in the title was The Thing. Because I'm going to try to keep this stream shorter today. I do have other stuff to do in real life, unfortunately. But yeah, I rewatched The Thing the other night. And that movie's so good. Like, it's so nice to have a movie where, you know, the characters make decisions that make sense. The alien is kind of its own original monster. You know, it's not just another vampire or Frankenstein or zombie or whatever. And that movie actually had a pretty good cast, too. I mean, obviously it has Kurt Russell and Keith David. Keith David's awesome. Obviously, Kurt Russell's awesome. The guy with the bushy eyebrows, I don't know his name. He's older. You've definitely seen him in stuff, though, if you've watched older movies. I think his name's like David Moffat or something. And it's just a really simple movie that I think does some really smart things. Like, one of the cool things about the movie, I think, is that, you know, the whole plot of the movie is this little Antarctic base, right? So you're just kind of in this isolated location, and everything there feels not small scale, but, you know, it's not this epic world-ending adventure. But if they lose, it would be, which I think is a really smart way to tell a movie. You know, because if they lose and the thing escapes, the thing does have the potential to spread to the rest of humanity. So it makes their fight kind of have a world-ending stakes without making them, you know, like Mission Impossible or something where everything is on the verge of exploding if you don't get to the bomb in time. Or like Man of Steel, where they're just exploding an entire city, punching each other for the last 45 minutes. And it's crazy because a movie of the Thing, like that quality, could probably be made still for a super small budget today. Like, I bet a movie like that could easily be made for $15 million, maybe 20. Because nothing in it is crazy big budget. I mean, the monster itself is pretty gross, but it looks like, you know, puppets or whatever. And then you're only on one location, which is supposed to be this remote base. So it's not like you need some massive sets and all that sort of thing. I'm so glad that they never did a sequel either. Like, I know they did the prequel. And if you haven't seen the prequel, it's not very good. Because the prequel kind of does the thing where it devolves into all the shit that I was just bitching about. You know, where it's just dumb action and there's alien ships and everything's a global threat and blah, blah, blah. Although, yeah, I don't know. I was just watching that movie and I was like, man, this movie would never ever get remade like this. Where it's just a few guys in a base. There's not a ton of over the top music. There's not a ton of like jump scares. The monster itself is horrific, obviously, because it's taken over people. And the monster's scary because you just don't know who it is, too, which is a really cool thing. I love the scene where they're testing the blood for it, too. Where he has everybody tied up and he's heating up the little metal wire and sticking it in the blood in the petri dishes. Like, all that is very smart, very well done, creepy as shit. Although the thing prequel, I will give credit for that actually, because they didn't want to just rip off the original and test the blood. So what they ended up doing was realizing that they couldn't imitate fillings, which I think is a neat thing. It's not a bad way to do it. I mean, the prequel wasn't like the worst of prequels. It just wasn't very good, and especially in comparison to the original. Because the original really is, I think, one of the best horror movies. It's just so good. But I'm also not a big horror guy. Like, my general go-to for horror movies is they stress me out. I'm really anxious for like an hour and a half. And then as soon as it's over, I'm like, well, that was fucking dumb. What are you working on, Shamrock? You still trying to get some more out of Rebel Moon? Or have you moved on to, well, anything else that's not miserable? Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I've heard of that one. I've never actually watched it. I'm pretty sure I don't even know anything about it, actually. Yeah, I don't know why. Horror's just never been my thing. You moved on from Rebel Moon? Yeah, Rebel Moon, man. Whew. I think the whole world wanted to move on from that one pretty much. That thing had like a 48-hour window, and I think everyone was just done. I seriously can't believe that he was able to get, what was it, $300 million to make those two movies? God, what a nightmare. Oh, that's right. You did tell me you were working on Avatar, yeah. So are you going to do like a comparison to the original of the live action? Or are you just doing like a deep dive? Because I'll be honest, I don't know if I would have the patience to sit through the live action one again. I've enjoyed the first two seasons of the original. Oh, okay. Yeah, you did mention that to me in the comments that you're dealing with copyright claims. Yeah, the good thing about the copyright claims when you're uploading, I'm assuming that's what you mean, is those are at least just an automated thing. So, you can zoom in a little bit. You can put like your logo over the you can put your logo, over top of the scene and make it mainly transparent. Sometimes that'll help you get by. I gotcha. Yeah, because it's really hard to compare those two seasons because they really cut out a lot of the fun. And I think they were so scared of a lot of different things that they altered way too many little things and ended up making it just feel like a completely different show. Like I think if I were to actually rewatch the live action now, it would piss me off after seeing the original. Because I saw the live action first, which I'm sure puts me in the minority. Jake and Hagar, what's up? I don't remember this mission. Oh, this is part of the Citadel DLC. So the last mission that I just did is when you get attacked going to meet Joker for dinner and you have to escape. And now you're trying to get to the guy at the head of this club because he's tied to the mercs that attacked you at dinner. So you're helping Brooks break into the helping Brooks break into the vault because you're trying to catch the guy and get more information about who hired him and the mercs. The Citadel DLC actually has a pretty mixed reception from what I've seen online. I actually really like it. I think it's really fun. And it's neat to kind of get to explore the Citadel and stuff. And then also, the whole party and everything, that's all you and your crew. My biggest complaint, and I was hoping that they would, I knew they weren't gonna, but like the ninja dude. The ninja dude. Kai Lang? No, that's the main story. This one, well, it's a minor spoiler, but I guess it's like a 12-year-old mission. The guy you're dealing with is actually your clone. But yeah, the online I've seen people seem pretty mixed about this. Like I like it. I think it's fun. What I was really hoping though, and I knew they wouldn't do it because depending on the ending that you pick, Shepard usually dies. But I was really hoping they would do it in a way where you could do the party after the final mission, and that would be like the actual end of the game instead of just the montage of photos based on your decisions. Which I never played the original ending, so I didn't mind the ending, but I know people were like super salty about it. Yeah, say this. I actually like the action in these missions, but this part right here, like this kind of shit on a replay, is really tedious. Kind of like the Geth mission, where you had to go through that virtual world. Like that one is a really cool concept, but much more tedious on replays when you're just kind of going through it. You already know the story, but it's also not really one that you can skip either. So I love how Star Trek, Star Wars, and the Halo TV shows all tried to use this storyline. Oh, you mean Mass Effect? Yeah, I've seen the speculation that Halo was originally a Mass Effect series, but they didn't have the rights or something. I don't think I buy that, honestly. I mean, I'm not sure about Star Trek and Star Wars. I'd have to know what you're referring to. But I think the Halo show was just a hodgepodge of like 3 or 4 original ideas that they had scripts for. But they were like, well, we don't want to put money into this original shit. So we'll combine them all and then call it Halo. Like like Quan's story, if you look at Picard had the exact storyline. That's pretty funny, actually. Yeah, I've heard people say The Expanse is really similar too, but I actually don't know if The Expanse came out before Mass Effect, the books. The Expanse books, I mean. But Halo, like if you look at each of the stories in isolation, none of them feel like part of the same world really at all. Like Quan's story to me feels like some like YA self-insert fucking nonsense, honestly. The stuff with Chief kind of feels like it wants to be Mission Impossible, or pick a show where the one good cop has to rebel against the bad cops, or the one good spy, blah blah blah. The stuff with Soren kind of felt like a weird thing where like they almost wanted him to be like Jack Sparrow meets Taken or something. I loved The Expanse until they started the stupid story with the reincarnation crap. I don't know anything about The Expanse other than I heard it was really good for a while and then got pretty bad. But I don't know. Like, I've never read the books or anything. I've just heard people praise it quite a bit. But, yeah, like Halo, if you take all those things in parts, it just seems like it really does seem like 4 or 5 different shows just slapped together. It's great until magic comes into play. Huh. Yeah, sci-fi with magic, I think is hard to mix. I mean, Star Wars did it, obviously, but, I think the reason it works for Star Wars is because it's so limited. Like, it's limited in the people that can use it and the scope of the way they can use it, in a way that it all feels like part of the same world. But I think that's tough to balance. And depending on how advanced your sci-fi is, some of that shit can seem like magic anyway. I mean, even Halo with the Forerunners, Now everyone's a Jedi. Like, to me, that was one of the cool things about Halo initially, is that the Forerunners were like mysterious, but also very clearly way more advanced than way more advanced than humans currently. And then it kind of devolved into this John's the chosen one and all this shit that I'm not a huge fan of, really. I mean, you can rationalize it depending on how you want to interpret Halo 4. Like, if I was being, like, the way that I would try to rationalize it would be, that when the librarian told John she was the culmination of millennia or whatever, that she just more meant, broadly speaking, that humans were gonna evolve to this point eventually, so she had prepared ahead of time, and not that he was like the chosen one destined to be there. But I think you can interpret it either way. The Forerunners should have stayed mysterious. Yeah, that's one of those things where it's better to let people's imagination do the writing. I don't know if you guys have read the books or not, but the Forerunner trilogy by Greg Bear, I thought was hellish to read. I've read it twice, and both times, when I get partway through the second book, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's happening right now. But I'm going to wrap up here. It's been an hour and a half. No one has said anything about the quality of the microphone being off, so I'm hoping that means that I got the kinks worked out. I'm pretty busy with real life stuff through next weekend, so next weekend will probably also be a short stream. Well, short like this, hour and a half. And then maybe after that, I'll mess with StreamYards and see if I can get Sergeant Mandibles to come on, or Shamrock or somebody. Your mic sounds fine. That's good. Yeah, I don't know what happened. When I switched from a laptop to a PC, I literally screenshotted all of my settings in OBS, copied them over, and then I was clipping, every video was clipping. So I had to delete all the filters. I recorded a couple of videos. I could hear myself fucking breathing. So I'm trying to just mess with the noise gate so you guys don't have to listen to me breathing into the microphone and smacking my lips and shit. But yeah, it's good that it's not clipping this time. As far as videos, I have hopefully assuming this Indian company doesn't sue me, my channel will be back up to normal Tuesday or Wednesday. I don't know if they count the first day that I sent it as day 1 or if that's like day 0. But either way, Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm hoping my channel's got the strike removed and I'm reinstated back to normalcy. So at that point, I'll release my Avatar Season 2 video, my Plastic Memories video. Those were both member requests. Maybe Mad Max if I watch that tomorrow night and make the video. And then obviously Acolyte Episode 3. Assuming it's as bad as everyone says it's going to be, I'll try to get that one out as quickly as I can. And then, let's see. I haven't started my rewatch of Free Aaron yet. That's my goal for my next long-term video or long-form video. And then I don't think there's any movies coming out. I mean, I talked about Bad Boys for Life a little bit today. Or what is it? Bad Boys Ride or Die? Bad Boys 4. And I was going to make a video on it, but I don't even know if I have enough to say about it. It just kind of is the same as the other 3. So, meh. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Hopefully you guys enjoy what's left of your weekend. I got some shit to take care of. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me today. If there's any particular topics you guys want me to talk about in these streams, just put a comment on a video or something. Oh my God, how embarrassing. Yeah, so yeah, that's kind of the current status of things. I'm really hoping this copyright strike is done in 2 days. Oh yeah. Yeah, I did see that movie Hitman with Glenn Powell or whatever came out on Netflix. Maybe I'll go watch that later this evening. It looked at least fun. Whether or not it's good, we'll see. He was in that Anyone But You with Sydney Sweeney. That movie was dog shit. But Hollywood seems to want to make him the next thing, so maybe this movie will be better. But, all right. Yeah, I'll see you guys later. Hopefully you'll get, 3 or 4 videos dumped in the next, Tuesday or Wednesday. Because that means my channel will be strike free. I'm not getting sued, hopefully. So yeah. All right. See you guys.